that you can find authenticity having a particularly important impact on social life, and that's in religion. Sociologists, as I've mentioned before, used to think that religion would go away in the modern world. There was a whole branch of sociology called secularization theory that provided explanations for why this was the case. Now, in point of fact, though, religion has not disappeared in the modern world. If anything, it's exploded, especially in the United States. America is probably the most outwardly religious of the Western nations, but societies across the modern world have been seeing revivals of religion over the last couple of decades. Why? Well, one theory is that religion offers something very valuable in the modern context: absolute values. A sense that certain things are important because of their place in the nature of the universe itself. Religion can solve the problem of existential alienation for people. It offers, in some ways, the ultimate authentic experience, something that seems undeniably, absolutely true. Now, it's interesting that not all religions do this equally well. In the United States, for example, sociologists of religion often talk about mainline churches, the big traditional churches that dominated American religious life for most of the 20th century. These would include institutions like the Catholic Church, the Episcopalian Church, and a range of Lutheran, Methodist, Baptist, Dutch Reformed, and other Protestant movements. If you go to any good-sized American town or city, you can usually locate the downtown by looking for a cluster of steeples associated with these churches. Now, mainline churches often have a lot of things going on in them besides questions about ultimate reality. They have social groups. They have bingo nights. They have charity fundraising drives. They have men's organizations and women's auxiliaries and youth groups. A lot of them have sports leagues and discussion societies. They aren't just religious organizations, but social institutions, and they fulfill a lot of social purposes. For much of the 20th century, church organizations like this were very important in American civil life, with church membership being tied to standing in local communities. Membership in churches usually involved a lifelong commitment, one that often passed from one generation to the next, as people would see themselves as a family that went to this church or that church, or whatever. Now, beginning in the 1970s, though, churches like this began to lose membership. Part of this had to do with the fact that they were so rooted in their local communities. And local communities and social groups generally started breaking up in the late 20th century. In their place, American Christianity has come to be dominated by something new: smaller churches, less locally based, shorter lived, often with large congregations composed of people who lived in the community a short time. And those churches often offer a very different kind of experience. They tend not to be theologically complex, for example. They don't tend to have seminaries, and they often don't have things like regional synods or faith associations. They tend to teach a fairly simple doctrine, one which is centered on the importance of faith. In many cases, they come from the charismatic wing of Protestant Christianity, a tradition that emphasizes things like faith healing and testifying and speaking in tongues, things that are associated with a direct experience of God during the religious service. This kind of experience provides a different value than the old mainline religions did. It doesn't give you a community particularly, and it doesn't organize the life of the town the way the old churches did. But it does give you something that's more important nowadays: a sense of authentic religious experience, a palpable and undeniable feeling of having personally encountered God. These religions don't base their appeal on theological arguments, but on direct experience, a feeling, a sensation of having directly encountered an absolute reality. It's perhaps not surprising, therefore, that these small, independent churches are skyrocketing in attendance numbers, while the Presbyterians, the Methodists, the Lutherans, and the rest of the mainline American churches are gradually withering away. That's not just happening here. All over the world, charismatic churches, both Protestant and Catholic, are exploding in popularity. The quest for authenticity, in other words, isn't just shaping the way we see art and music and dance, or even just the way we see each other. More and more, it's shaping the way that we understand the divine and the way that we see the universe itself.